For everybody who is here or might be watching the recording or who has registered for this, welcome. I really appreciate you tuning in to the latest webinar that the Rural Illinois Career Tech Ed Project has hosted. We appreciate each of you taking the time to sign up, chime in for today's quick talk. And as always, feel free to reach back out to us with questions after the fact if something comes up. As you have the moment, if you're here today with us, please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. I would love to learn, and our guest hosts would love to learn who you are and find ways to stay in touch with you all. I have asked for folks to stay muted until the Q&A at the end, but please put any thoughts, questions, support for what you're hearing in the chat. I'll be keeping tabs on it all so I can keep up with you during our conversation. So just really quickly about me and the Rural Illinois CTE Project. If you haven't engaged with us previously, the project is a collaborative partnership between the Association of Illinois Rural and Small Schools and the Illinois State Board of Education's Career and Tech Ed office. It's directly in line with AIRS's mission to serve and advocate for the voice of all rural Illinois schools in the state. And so the project is seeking to understand and address the challenges with career tech programming in rural schools specifically. So this includes some research and networking with each of you to learn more about your experiences, as well as technical assistance. And so today's webinar is one part of that technical assistance where we're hoping to use, our virtual and advocacy platforms to share good ideas that I believe and we believe can really transform rural education. So to learn even more about the project and AIRS, I'll be including a link to our web portal in the chat here shortly. But I want to introduce our guest today. I'm super thrilled that they could join us. So Kris Noble is a community engagement specialist at the Midland Institute for Entrepreneurship, which runs the CEO program. And I feel like more and more people know about the CEO program, so I'm hoping you're coming in with some excitement and anticipation already. But Kris has had 35 years of community development experience where she's worked to impact change in communities through building relationships, creating collaborations, and executing initiatives, all to bring together all the sectors involved in community development like business, education, healthcare, and not-for-profit. She does all this work with an emphasis on positive youth development, which you love to see, community engagement, and strategic planning. She's collaborated with school districts, nonprofits, service clubs, businesses, preschools, and faith communities all before about creating environments for more youth-friendly and improve youth and adult relationships. I love all this. But before working at Midland, Kris served as executive director of the Sauk Valley Area Chamber of Commerce, where she led the chamber to receive a 5-star accreditation for their work through the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. And as you heard at the top, she's also a graduate of the Chamber's Institute of Organization Management, earning her IOM designation and being able to participate in the first cohort of the Business Leads Fellowship. In her current role at Midland, Kris works to engage and support communities and bringing together the education sector and business community to collaborate on workforce development and essential skills development for high school students through the CEO program. I love fun facts too, so along with her life partner and 2 sons, Kris enjoys all things sports related, football, volleyball, and softball. She likes baking, which is fun, and she loves traveling, which I enjoy to do as well. With Kris today is Hannah Wilson. She is a 2018 CEO alum who is joining to provide some firsthand testimony on the impact and opportunity the program offers to students in small towns and rural places. Since her time in CEO, Hannah now currently owns a business called Rack City Thrift Shop in Dixon, Illinois. So please join me in welcoming Kris and Hannah. And guys, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks for joining.
Thank you so much. Thanks everybody for being on. I am going to kind of introduce Creating Entrepreneurial Opportunities, and then basically the CEO program is a 2-credit elective that our team, Midland Institute for Entrepreneurship, works with communities who are looking for maybe something different to allow their students to experience entrepreneurship and all the local pathways. But before I kind of get in the nuts and bolts, I would love for Hannah, as an alum and entrepreneur and businesswoman in our community, to share her thoughts on why she took the class and how it's impacted her now, 6 years later, Hannah, and the work she's doing.
Well, it's funny because the reason why I wanted to take CEO to begin with was I went to a school that wore uniforms and I saw that the CEO kids got to wear dress clothes throughout the day. And I was like, oh, I got to do that. Like, I want to be a part of that class. But I also heard that you could make money at the end of it too. So that was like very intriguing to me. I was always kind of like thinking about like, how could I make money? How could I do this? But that's really why I took the class. And then it kind of just spiraled into something much more than that.
When you look back, Hannah, if you were to say right now, one reason the community should have a CEO program, what would be your top reason?
I would say if you want your community to survive with like the newest generation and keep people in your community, you're going to want a program like CEO, because you're giving young people access to information that they might not have ever gotten. You're getting like insider information into different businesses in your local communities. And it kind of like opens your eyes in a way. Cause I always thought like, oh, Dixon Sterling, it's so rural, so small. There's nothing really going on here. It's like, there's so much money to be made here in our community. Like, you don't have to go away. If you have like these big pursuits and dreams of things, you can do it all right in your community.
Cool. So Hannah, I'm going to go through a couple slides and then I'm going to tee you up to talk about your individual business, if you remember, and your class business.
Sure.
When I get to that.
Sure.
So here is some input from
This isn't just
stakeholders.
some new initiative or program. It's a proven model. And I think that is very appealing to business people. It's very appealing to, school administrators and everybody else who doesn't have a lot of time. We haven't had a specific entrepreneurship initiative in this community since I've been here. That's this comprehensive, that is this targeted, that looks to do other than what the school systems have provided traditionally. This is really something different that I think appeals to business people and economic development professionals like myself.
And CEO is the program that will teach our students and teach your young people to innovate. Not only that, it will teach them personal responsibility. It's their business. It's going to teach them the rough and tumble of the real world. It's going to teach them that business is not about what they want. It's about what the customer wants. And there is no way to learn these lessons except getting into the arena and starting that business. So this isn't a question of, can we find the resources for it? Should we do it? The question is, how can you afford not to do this? You have an opportunity with a turnkey program to scale up entrepreneurship in your community, make it part of your culture, and increase the total number of entrepreneurs for the future. And there just simply aren't many programs, certainly not this proven. We looked at several different opportunities, and CEO is the clear number one.
CEO has been the most beneficial, most gratifying program I have been involved with. And what we found was the high school kids don't always talk to the adults. So this engages them to interact in that type of setting to where they now speak the same language. Schools are limited to the exposure they can give these kids in a real business setup. And what CEO does is it kind of fills that gap. You kind of get 2 for 1. You get the workforce component, but you also get the economic development component.
The CEO program that I believe we're doing here in Southwest Minnesota is by far the best program that I've ever been associated with in education in 33 years. I think what CEO allows is them to foster what they're good at. And I don't think we do enough of that in education. And then to have the businesses understand the economic development of growing your own and giving kids an opportunity to see that they can be successful and they can be successful right here. You get asked a lot in the business world to help schools out all the time. But when you support this program, you have a direct impact on students and student learning and changing lives. From our standpoint, Midland Institute was the rock. They were the foundation to everything that we did. So from our perspective, Midland Institute was invaluable as a resource to not only answer questions, but to provide training for our facilitator, provide networks for our facilitator, provide networks for our board. Midland Institute it is and has been a tremendous resource. And without Midland Institute, I don't see how you get this program going.
Those high schoolers, that's like the linchpin of your economic success, 5, 10, 15 years from now. This isn't just some,
So that's just nice for us to have other testimonials of key stakeholders in communities. This is where we're at. We currently have 74 programs in 11 states, working with 350 high schools. As you can see, we're based in Effingham, Illinois, founded in 2009. And so the bulk of our programs are in Minnesota or in Illinois, of course. And we're building capacity around the country. Um, Alabama is taking off, and Minnesota. There's a lot of work to be done in Illinois. We know there are a lot of communities. And I'm really grateful for the partnership with AIRS. John and I were able to meet at the Illinois Education Success Network. I sat in on his session and really talked about if we're working to provide rural Illinois with tools, as they're looking to help schools and communities thrive, and how do we do that? And if CEO is a program that's established, we have 16 years experience, how do we let more communities know how to start a program? And so we're working to continue build capacity and launching programs. Next fall we'll launch 4, so I think we'll be at 78 programs. And so our job at Midland Institute is to work with communities that their school districts are looking for something maybe a little different. I want to make it really clear. We don't compete with current programming. If your community has FBLA, FFA, DECA, Junior Achievement, we want to work with all those programs because truly more offerings for students is better. If more students can get engaged in entrepreneurship and get engaged in understanding their local pathways, why would we not offer those to kids? And so a lot of your communities already have programming, and we want to just add to that. For me, this is a nutshell slide because it explains from the business, the Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development, municipalities that are engaged in economic development, what CEO does in the realm of WorkSource. It is an entrepreneurship program. Students will start businesses, actual businesses. They will live the essential skills, the soft skills daily. And so we know the state of Illinois, or the Illinois State Board of Education, has what they call the core competencies. They are part of what young people need as they're going through their journey of high school. It's the same skills that employers are looking for every single day. And as a chamber director, it was the #1 problem my members had in trying to find employees that could take accountability, be problem solvers, work in a team. And so they live those every day. This is the difference of our program, I think, than a lot of programs, is they are in the business community for the full school year. So they will visit 40 businesses and meet 40 guest speakers. And I'll talk a little bit about that. And it's a grow your own. It's a talent retention program. If you're in economic development, you know talent attraction is one way to do it, and talent retention is another, and a combination. And what this does is looking at our high school students are our best source of talent and letting them know the pathways that are local. This is the founder, Craig Lindeval, who passed away in 2020, but I just love this slide because I think it shows giving young people the responsibility, and then they're able to just do amazing things. This program immerses kids in the business community. They are never in the classroom. They really have an entrepreneur mindset as they have to create a business. And they become your future business and thought leaders. We have young people, our CEO program, the one Hannah was involved with, we are on our 11th year. Those young folks are now sitting on boards of directors. They are volunteering their time with organizations. They are becoming the thought leaders within their organizations. So I think that's really a critical aspect of how this program kind of transforms young people. I'm going to skip that because I want to talk to Hannah. Hannah, tell us about some of the business visits you remember going on that you were shocked because you're from this area. You were born and raised here, but you went to businesses that you didn't know what they did.
There were a lot of manufacturing businesses like Franz, Rainer, Wall Clipper, like huge companies that I would have never thought would be like in my hometown or like around here that employ so many people. So many people go to jobs there. So that was like a kind of an eye-opening experience for sure.
And with these business visits, so students physically go to the business. So Rainer Garage Doors is in Dixon, Illinois. The students will meet there. They will meet with maybe the CFO, the CEO, and they get a tour. So you have 10 to 20 high school students, who's ever in the class, dressed appropriately for a manufacturing business visit, and they get an opportunity for 90 minutes to talk with that business owner. The next component are those guest speakers. Hannah, do you recall if there was a guest speaker that kind of stuck out to you, or the different types of guest speakers that we brought in for the class?
I personally liked kind of like the financial sort of ones when we would go to Midland and they would tell us about like Roth IRAs or like different ways that you can invest into your future. Like that's all information that's so valuable to someone who's 18 years old. Like that's all things that you should know. Like that's the perfect time to learn all of those things.
Yeah. So an example of a guest speaker is, let's say you have an Edward Jones agent or Clifton Larson Allen, your accountants. They maybe don't want to do a tour, but we bring them in, we being the local board of directors, and they meet with the students and have the conversation about their journey and jobs in their pathway or lessons learned. And not just business folks, but we'll bring in not-for-profit organizations. The YWA always speaks. So what is it like to be in not-for-profit work, not-for-profit management, and then also your municipalities. All of our city managers, Sterling, Rock Falls, Dixon, Polo, they are willing to sit and have a visit with the students, often doing a tour of the police station or the fire department. So that might be a visit, but then the guest speaker are leaders of a municipality. And then our state representatives were also very engaged in talking with the kids about their role and not just civic involvement, but their role and their journey, how they got to be where they're at. Another component is the one-to-one mentoring. Each student in the class, again, 10 to 20 students is our average class size, is paired with a business mentor. Hannah, do you remember who your mentor was?
I do. It was Katie Selmy Downs.
Oh, okay. So that's an interesting pairing for you. Katie Selmy is, what would you guess, Hannah? She owns 4 businesses in town, would you?
Oh, I'm giving her a run for her money, I think.
Yes. What a perfect pairing. So Katie owns a company called Selmy's Floral. She just opened a prom shop. She
Yeah.
does tuxes, and she's also a country financial agent. What was the reason, in your opinion, of having a mentor? You're a 17-year-old high school girl. Why do we give you a mentor?
It gives, well, I think it gives the mentor like a personal investment into you, into like this kid, and I want to see this kid succeed. That's how I felt a lot of times, like being a young person in business. All of these people just want to see you succeed because like you're a young person doing it, you know? So like I don't know, it's just a really cool experience to have someone like so willing to help you.
And to be sure, our mentors, again, are volunteering their time, and they meet in class time, usually maybe the last Friday of the month. We make sure that the mentor understands their responsibility, and the facilitator, which I'll talk a little bit about, is the paid staff person of the program. They help do that match. And so sometimes recently, and I don't know if she did this with you, Hannah, it was kind of like speed dating, where the students meet all the mentors meet all the students, and they kind of say, oh, I felt I connected with these top 3 adults. And the facilitators tries to navigate that based on personality, based on business interest. My son was in the class, Elliot was in the class in 2020, 2021, and he was matched with a woman, probably in her, and he'll seen us as I can share this, in her late 60s. But she was really good for Elliot because she was very patient with his questions and kind of his inability to ask questions. So she kind of led him to becoming more open. So it was a really good match for him. The other part of the program is there's a lot of team building. And so in our program, again, and we're just one of 74, the program I'm most familiar with, you have students from other school districts. So all of these students are coming together for a 90-minute class, and they have to learn to work together. And a lot of kids know each other through sports and activities or music or dance. But Hannah, how important was that we were intentional about building team with your whole class that whole year?
I think it's super important just knowing your team and knowing their strengths, their weaknesses, so that you can kind of like help the group by playing off of them. Even like at the store when I have to schedule people, or like with my team there, I'm always thinking about like, oh, this person is the best at this, we're going to put them up there. Like just knowing kind of how to gauge, how to read the room, really.
And good. I'm glad you said that, because I'm going to lead into starting their businesses. So the students launch and operate 2 businesses. And this is not in theory. These are actual businesses created. And every student will be part of a class business, and every student forms an individual business. Hannah, I don't recall, what was your class business?
Our class business was the Taste of Sock, which was really important because I think 2 or 3 CEO classes before us tried to do it and failed, but we were the ones to pull it off. And basically what it was we had reached out to maybe 20, 25, 30 different restaurants in the area and kind of asked them if they would want to put up like a booth at this Taste of Sock, where you could buy a ticket, go in and see all of the different like restaurant options in the area and get like a little sample from that. So that was our business. It was pretty good.
It was. And again, they created a business plan, and as a team had to figure out how to market. What was their price point for ticket sales? How were they going to set up the room? And so this team of young people has to do this and figure out, with guidance from the facilitator and with the end game netting some dollars so they could use that for their individual businesses. The individual business, then every student creates an individual business. Now, I want to mention something before I have Hannah talk about her individual business and how it's gotten her journey here. You already have students in your communities that have side hustles. You have this young man who's been mowing lawn since he was 12. He has a riding lawnmower, and now he realizes he can take it a next step and create an actual business to do this. You have a young girl who's been selling bracelets at church, and she realizes she can take this business one step further. This class speaks to young people who truly think like entrepreneurs, but did not have an outlet to do it. Hannah, I remember your business because I bought a makeup bag from you.
Did you really?
Yes, I still have it.
That's awesome.
So you want to talk about what your individual business was, and then a little bit about what you're doing now that you're doing the past 6 years?
That's perfect that you say that too, because I was always looking for a way to make money, but like you said, I wasn't presented with like the right way to go about it. So all throughout high school, I sewed makeup bags. My friends would use them as like pencil cases in school. And I was already doing that, but then I just took it a step further, like you said, and just batch made a whole bunch of them because I was preparing for the CEO trade show at the end of the year. So I was just stockpiling a whole bunch of inventory until then.
Yeah, and I remember you did that, and then what are you doing now? I mean, you're not sewing, but you're still in that. You have
Still
a
in
business.
that field. I never really thought that I would be, but here I am. I was actually in college and I just was looking for another side hustle again. So I started thrifting things and I just created like a little Instagram page and I would sell stuff on it, like kind of like a closet clean out. But I started like actually thrifting stuff toward that. It was called Handpicked Thrifts. That was like my original business. And then it was actually the year 2020. I was a sophomore at Sauk. I had just graduated and it was kind of time to like decide what school you want to go to next or like what path you want to take. And I remember just thinking like I could just open a store and see what happens. Like what's the risk? Like risk reward. So I opened the store and it went really well. My location wasn't great, but I ended up teaming up with another local businesswoman who had a boutique downtown, which is a much better spot. We ended up teaming up, and then that's how we started Rack City, which is what I'm doing right now. And we've been open for like 3 years now, so it's pretty cool.
And I will say this because Hannah will not give herself credit, but it's a destination. If you are, especially I think for millennials and Gen Zers, um, it is a place they make an intentional trip to when they're home on college break.
For sure.
And we have people driving, we know, from other parts of our area to visit her store.
There's nothing like it in our community. Like thrifting is kind of one of those things that people go out and do like as a hobby now, or like, oh, I'm bored, let's go thrifting or go shopping or whatever. And there's just nothing like it in our area. So we were kind of like the first to tap into that.
I think the two other things with an individual business that happens in our program, and Hannah spoke a little to this, is the very first thing is there's a banker day where the students meet with local banks, and your local banks in your community love to be a part of this. It's A, potential consumers, and B, they really are interested in what these kids are doing as entrepreneurs. And they talk to them about their business plan, and the kids show them their business plan, and they give them very honest feedback about, yes, I would loan you money. No, I would not. Can you fix this? These are questions. And then the second thing is a pitch. The kids do a pitch. Again, we bring in your local board and your facilitator, get some key community stakeholders, and they volunteer their time to just listen to the pitch and give them honest feedback about, kind of think Shark Tank, but smaller scale.
Yeah.
So we really have so many components of the program that we're constantly giving feedback to the students for the model. And then I think the students feel comfortable asking questions or going somewhere for help. Because at the end of the year, the vision is they will have 100 business contacts in their community or close to that. And that's huge for young people wanting to know, oh my gosh, here's a resource. And these business folks are very, very honest and like, yep, please reach out. I'm always willing to give you 5 to 10 minutes of my time. We have a lot of our businesses who are even willing to sit down with kids for potential internships or potential job interviews if that is something in that student's pathway. Here are some of the key components, and I'll kind of go over this as a summary. It is community driven and community supported. Every CEO program starts with Midland Institute working with a local group of invested stakeholders that want to see this move forward. There's no cost to the school district, or students do not pay tuition. The 40 business speakers or business visits, the 40 guest speakers, 100 business connections, business mentor, and the class and individual business. Those are those core components. There is a national pitch competition that the students from every program, so for example, last year, I think we had 1,048 students in the program. They can enter a national pitch competition, and it's narrowed down. The Midland Institute team kind of works to organize that, and then the students are given 30 seconds to pitch, and this year 18 winners were chosen. So it's just kind of a fun thing for the students to compete nationally. But they also do it as well with their local program, kind of pitch it to the local community. And it culminates with the trade show. Every community hosts a local trade show where the students must have product. So Hannah, do you remember the trade show? You had to have actual sewing bags or makeup kits on hand to sell. Do you remember what that day was like for you?
It was my first like pop-up, if you would call it. I've done probably hundreds of them since, but it was like the first time where I was like, oh God, I have to like get my display ready, because it's all about like kind of curating it so that people want to stop and look and talk and all of that. So it's like the setup of all of it, trying to figure out a display, trying to figure out how to catch people's eye with like signage. It was all of that sort of stuff, which I use later on in life. So that worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, here you are, 17, 18 years old, and we give you a 10 by 12 spot. We hold ours, our local program holds it at the local mall, but any event venue, I just was at the one in Windham, Minnesota. They used a community center, and they have to figure out how to stage their product to make sure they have enough product. Students have to have a product or a service. So we've had young people um, offer baseball lessons. A young man that graduated 2 years ago, he has a drone and does drone consulting for the ag community and realtors. So the choices are wide, and the kids come up with some incredible ideas. From this, we know about a third of the students will keep their business going. Hannah being an example of that, or in that business entrepreneur mindset. Other kids, like my son, Elliot, he is not going to be a small business owner or an entrepreneur, but he's going to make an amazing entrepreneur. So he's declared healthcare management as his major, and he's going to be a really good worker for someone that wants to hire a young person who is willing to ask questions, is willing to be held accountable, is prepared, is willing to ask, for help when they need help. So we know that the results of CEO really speak for themselves. It transforms students. It gives them lots of skills that in the education system, we want kids to prepare for life. So we're just tapping into that. They're great entrepreneurs and entrepreneurs, and the best network is local. I just think that when we look at young people, if we want to keep them local, we've got to give them a reason to stay. And this program helps them explore all those opportunities. And Hannah, would you say that you feel the community has supported you on your journey as an entrepreneur, like starting this business, having a bricks and mortar?
100%. Like, I remember when I opened my first store, this woman, she is actually a CEO mentor now. She bought me an ad space in the newspaper because she just like believed in me so much. And she's like, this really helped me like get my start. Like, I hope that it helps you, and I hope that you can pay it on in the future someday. So like there's been countless examples of just being totally supported by your community. And I think that's like a good reason to stay. Also, it's like a fun thing to be a part of. Feels good.
Yeah, I think that in our program and the other programs that have been around, the community buys in and sees the ROI as these kids are staying in their community. These students feel much more connected to their community. The program is set up for a full school year. It is for juniors and seniors only, and they must apply, and I'll talk about that. It's a 90-minute, so it's either 2 class periods or a block schedule. Um, it is 2 credits, and it is a graded program. And so when we work with school districts that are interested, we walk them through how that works. The good news is we have so many programs in Illinois. We know how it's coded as an elective. We know how to help work out with communities that are like, what times of day do we offer this class? We can give you some guidance and support as communities are exploring this. Students must apply to be in this program. It's different than many electives. It's an online digital application, and it's a blind student selection. And the local board of directors selects the students, um, and they do stay in communication and connection with the home district. And so if we know a student, for example, where Hannah and my son from Newman applied, and we have a question about the student's application, they can always reach out to the guidance counselor and ask for more information. So that's very critical, that the school engagement is critical in the school relationship with all of the districts that are sending students into the program. So that's kind of a key piece. It's just the nuts and bolts. It's truly community driven and community funded and community supported. What does our team do? From this conversation till forever, Midland Institute works with the community. So a program that's been around 16 years or 11 years or 1 year, our team is committed to working with your community to make sure your questions are answered, to make sure when you hire that facilitator, that paid staff person, when your board is formed, when we look at how do we set up the fiscal sponsor, all of those components we walk through with you, from our team, my role of an engagement specialist, and my colleague Chris Eggleston is an engagement specialist, to the team that is called our developer team. We have tech support. We create a website for every program. So if you look up WACC CEO Program, you will see that. We do a lot of the, we have a template for an annual report. So that technology, and then all of the training that's needed. I can't say that enough because I think a lot of you on this call, you are familiar with organizations that come in and they help create a product and get you going, and then they're no longer there for support. And our intent is to be with communities the whole time they have a program and for as long as they have a program. We also do a pre and a post impact for every student in the program. This is last year's data from 23-24. We're working on gathering this year's. What I believe is really critical, all of this, but I like the 62% became a customer of a business. Hannah, do you recall learning about a business you could shop at that you didn't know existed beforehand? Or a restaurant?
Probably a restaurant. I feel like there's so many options here that I just didn't know about.
Yeah. I'll tell you, one of the stories I have really quickly is we have a Hallmark in Dixon. It's called Pam's Hallmark. And those young people did not know card stores actually existed anymore, or little gift shops. And Pam's Hallmark has shown an increase in business in the millennial, Gen X, or Gen Z population because she's a tour site, and those students have started sharing on their stories, their Snap stories and their Insta stories about this cute little shop in Dixon, Illinois. 59% of the students will say, I can see myself working for this business. Businesses that they probably didn't know existed before, because we actually physically get them out into the business. And then 85% gained a new perspective of the community. Hannah, did you see in your class, if you can recall, kids starting to realize that their local community really did care about them?
I think that, and like the community that we had created kind of for ourselves, like we all really cared about each other, and we all kind of like grew into a community too, which was cool.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. You have a bunch of high school juniors and seniors. They become really engaged in the program, and they start to realize they're part of something bigger, and the relationships formed. I don't know about you, Hannah, but Elliot still has his group from his class, and they keep in touch of just updates, kind of what's going on with all of them. And so here's my contact info. I really want to thank Hannah, you, and anybody on the call. Hannah, do you have any final thoughts or ideas or suggestions before we open it up to questions?
I don't know if I have any suggestions, but I do have like my one biggest takeaway from CEO, which was like just getting yourself out there could change your life. Like one of the things that we talked about a lot in our class is like, don't be afraid to get a no. Don't be afraid to ask questions or ask for something. Like, don't feel like, oh, who am I to ask for this? It's like, just ask it. And it's so what if they say no? Like, what if they say yes? Like that's been like one of the biggest things that I think about a lot.
And for you as a young entrepreneur, that's what the business community should want, is young people who are wanting to ask questions and get guidance and knowing there's no harm and you will, failing is okay. You will fail forward.
Yes, 100%. And it's like, go out of your way if you want something. I've hired 3 CEO students, not even on purpose, but because they asked me for a job. Like they came up and asked for me. Like, of course, I would hire you over someone that just like didn't say anything or like gave me like an application or a resume or whatever. Like, go out of your way.
Cool. So John, I've wrapped up. I don't know if there's any questions, any comments. People have questions for Hannah, or myself. We're open to that.
Yeah. First off, thank you both, Hannah and Kris, again for jumping on today and sharing about this great program. I mean, just listening to you both, and Hannah, especially your experience with it all reminds me what first sparked my interest in this and really wanting to spotlight you two for a really great idea for schools, right? Like, our work at AIRS, we really talk about the power of investing in place. We're typically talking about the school, but here we have an opportunity to do school and community together in a way that they naturally already are, but we don't always lean into fully, right? And I also talk, if anybody follows anything I write for this, unfortunately, I have to read through my stuff, but you hear me talk about we have tons of assets all the time, right, in rural places. And Hannah, first and foremost, our biggest asset is students, right? Just like yourself. And what a great way to invest in you. You know, there's a lot of challenges in rural, but I really think some of this on our end is about making rural possible, right? So it's really great to hear how it's happening in Dixon. And I really think it can be put out elsewhere. So I'm going to take the spotlight off of us, so it'll bring everybody into gallery mode with each other. We did have a couple questions put in the chat, but I would welcome folks if they want to come off mute, come off camera, or come on camera as well to share their questions. Otherwise, I'll dive into in a second some of the ones that have been asked. So I'll give it a minute. Joe, I see you.
Yeah, hey guys, I'm so sorry. I've been in and out, but fascinated from the conversation. So just to echo what I just caught the end of John there, I thoroughly enjoy this. I'm in a school community that's just bringing this on next year. That's a bunch of kind of small schools, the Fulton County, Spoon River CEO. They're kind of pulling some resources. But I kind of have a lot of questions about where do you see this going? So can you riff on that for a minute? CEO expansion, is it something that could even be implemented for younger students? And do you see it in kind of core academic classes, at least some of those competencies that develop? But maybe riff on that for a minute.
So when we look at growth, our Midland Institute is looking as we grow nationally. So we're in 11 states with the 74 programs. The vision is we're run by a national board of directors. We're a 501c3. And so my belief and why I left the chamber world is CEO should be offered to every high school student in America. We focus in rural America because I believe this isn't maybe Midland's stance, but we have a strong sense of community, and rural America is losing population at a higher rate than larger suburbs. So when we look at growth, it's what communities are ready, and I have communities all over the country. Personally, in Illinois, we're in northern Illinois, and there's only 2 programs north of the Interstate 80. It's really very prevalent in southern Illinois, probably because it was founded in Effingham. And so we're looking to grow capacity in LaSalle, Peru, and Princeton, and there's that. So that's the demographic question. We will go into any community that is interested in looking at things differently and giving students more opportunities. There is talk about what do we do at a, is there middle school work going on? Are there activities that can be done? We know junior achievement has a lot going on in that space, so how do we partner with them? I think when rural communities look at school districts, finding those districts that are pretty forward thinking and saying, yeah, and then adding districts, or our program Joey, for example, we now offer 2 classes in our program because it has become so popular. An average class size is 20 students max, because that's what the business community says works best for tours and conversation and mentors. So we've started about 6 years ago so we can have double. So I think there's a lot of room for growth in rural communities.
Yeah, thank you so much. That's so exciting to hear. Thank you.
And I think a question I had too, and Joe, it plays into the first one you had asked in the chat there. So Kris, Hannah, kind of a two-parter here. How do you get started? So say someone on the call or watching the recording later is like, all right, I really want to check this out. How do you get started? And what have typically been some of the common barriers to getting started in the past that schools have worked through?
So whether it's a school or a business or a municipality, who's ever interested would reach out to myself or someone on my team. There's 2 of us. And we would start this initial meeting just to talk about, this is the program, kind of the PowerPoint I went through. And then after this one-on-one conversation, or in my world with chambers, it's usually a chamber person and maybe 1 or 2 others. And then we have an initial stakeholders meeting. All of those key stakeholders that want to be part of a conversation about partnering education with business, which often that isn't always happening, or it's not happening at the way education and business want to. And I've shared with you the role the US Chamber has played in really allowing the business community and encouraging the business community and education sectors not to be so siloed. So then it's getting those education folks on board to say, well, you have a conversation about a 2-credit elective that the business community will fund, so the school district doesn't have to pay anything. And it's kind of like, will you let us borrow your students for 90 minutes? So that conversation, and we will work depending on where the community is located, we will come. Like I said, I was just in Elizabeth for a key stakeholders meeting, or we will meet virtually. And after that initial stakeholder meeting, they decide, are we ready to form a steering committee? And that steering committee will guide the process of ensuring the school districts that want to participate are invited to be part of it. School districts understand their responsibility, and then the business community as well. And from there, the steering committee meets and we walk them through the process. So it's an initial conversation with 1 or 2 or 3 people to a larger key stakeholders conversation.
You can pause for some more questions as folks have them. Otherwise, I had plenty. I always have plenty. I'm a curious individual at the end of the day. Well, I guess, Hannah, I have one for you. So went through the program. You've shared a bit about your story after the fact and the impact it's had. Just to ask you to reflect back a little bit now, what would you say was the hardest part or the part of the program that you grew the most through?
Probably having to talk to like other people, because I was very introverted. And I think this is probably more prevalent now than ever, because I was in high school 7 years ago. It's a totally different climate now. Like after COVID, like kids are different. Like they really are. It's nice to have someone teach you like social skills, a firm handshake, eye contact. Eye contact is like a lost art. With like I see these kids, they come into my store, they don't know how to talk to people. So like having that alone is a huge thing. And just how to talk to your peers, how to win people over, how to talk to someone to get them to see your side, like all of those different things. That's super important in any aspect of life, business or not.
Yeah, totally. Thanks.
I just think that's an example in how Hannah took, and a lot of the students, it transforms them. Again, I've known Hannah since she was a freshman, and again, had great skills, but it's empowering them to, and now she's, in her 20s and as a small business owner and as someone people really look to and want to work for. And she's not afraid to have conversations with anybody in the community.
I think a lot of people in the community are like that too. They just need someone to ask them, you know. They need like a CEO program to join.
Beautiful plug. I like it. Well, I guess sort of in that vein, something that I thought about, again, one thing I've enjoyed seeing about the CEO program is how it provides that pathway to channel student interests who are already kind of thinking about, maybe I want to start a business or I'm interested in learning a bit more. Kris, could you speak to, how does the program reach out to kids to think about what entrepreneurship even means to begin with, right? Like if they're not already thinking about this or seeing themselves in that environment, what sort of work does the program do to expand student horizons?
So we try to be really intentional when we have a marketing plan, like when we do student recruitment, we make sure that our districts that are encouraging students is not just AB students, not just those following a business pathway. We really try and be intentional, and we have it's a great relationship. So for one of our programs, on our board is a guidance counselor who works with all of our school districts. And we are trying to be very intentional by word of mouth and by the marketing that comes out that um, it's not just for those cream of the crop college bound, and it's often for students that they might just not be sure of their direction, or those true kids that they're not super engaged in school now. They have 1,000 ideas, but they're in a school building and they want to start thinking about how to take these ideas to fruition. So we work with the facilitator and the board really how to do student recruitment, um, and what that looks like. And we continue to try and do it better to make sure every student has the opportunity to think about applying for CEO. And that's why there's no grade requirement and there's no prerequisite. You don't have to have accounting 101, you don't have to have business 101. Midland set up the program so there's not a required class prior to taking the CEO program.
Yeah, I love that. It's right in line with, the mission for the Rural CTE Project as well. Doesn't matter, if you're college bound, career bound, life bound, whatever, everybody needs, applicable, lessons of what they've been learning out in the field, right? And so this is a great way of, giving everybody access to an opportunity to do just that, I think.
Yeah, and we know some students, we've talked to kids that were CD academically, and this speaks to them and they realize to be in CEO, you have to be engaged and you have to go back and finish your school day. Like it's not CEO or bust. And so it gives them that engagement in staying the course of finishing high school and realizing how the rest of what they're doing applies, why English is relevant, why the math classes I'm taking. So we're really trying to tie them in that your journey of education ties into where you want to go in your real life.
Yeah.
I think my son, he didn't really understand the relevance of English, but when employers are like, your emails must be grammatically correct, or just those things that kids are not connecting the dots always. Um, when the business world says, well, what you're learning in high school is relevant.
Any other thoughts or questions out there? Otherwise, I will keep going.
I'm good with your questions too, John. It's outstanding to listen to, and I will just echo. I'm in a more dean kind of position, so just to echo this, I'm dealing with a lot of referrals of behavior, and it's really just like students are stuck. We're just so situated in a kind of compliance, kind of culture, and the students that aren't the A, B kind of students. This would be a program that I'm also thinking of them in mind of what are some opportunities beyond the walls of school that they could go to. So I really appreciate hearing this. This is something that we desperately need. Like what you just said too, Kris. It's so good to hear you say that for all students, right? And how can we partner with our communities that have so many assets to help with this mission that teachers more and more feel isolated doing in education, but it isn't just theirs alone. So I am we're talking, and I'm so sorry I keep bouncing too. I've got all these referrals that keep popping up, And for every single student, something like this wouldn't be something that would exist. This would make a position like I'm in very obsolete. And so, oh my gosh, I almost want to make myself obsolete. So, really, so just hearing you guys speak big about goals. But maybe I'm also really curious about, are there any examples of folks that learn from obstacles along the way? I mean, this has been around that much, especially rural communities, of maybe doing it the second time around. This might have been something you guys spoke to already, but maybe could you speak about that, learning from something that didn't go exactly right the first time around?
So I think with the programs we have, our developer team tries to keep in touch with the facilitator, which is the paid staff person of the program, and the board. But just, I sat on our local board for 8 years, and I was the board chair while I was at the chamber. And one of our challenges was we had students that were not applying from, like, we didn't have an application from one of our districts until 2 years ago. And really trying to be mindful of that. And again, if we're offering it to 9 school districts, how to make sure kids are given the opportunity to apply, or if they can't apply, what's the reason? Well, in one of our districts, it was competing with an AP course. Well, that's only a certain amount of kids that are taking those AP classes. So then are we not marketing it to students that aren't taking that AP class, right? Another is if there's a transportation barrier, because again, the kids are transporting themselves. We had the community where the young lady from Fulton she's our first student. It's about a 35-minute drive from Sterling. The local community stepped up and they're paying her gas cards. So she has transportation, but they're able to pay for her gas. So when there's a challenge, and I think this is what I really like about Midland Institute, we're very aware that we can continue to get better. How do we become a best practice? And so when communities say, we're really struggling with this, having an engaged board is critical. That the board of directors understands this is a commitment to partner with the education system. And you're not just a seat at the table. You will work on student retention and student recruitment and investor relations. And that we set the process up so that the board knows that.
Well, I think just to close us out, I always love ending on a piece of aspiration or hope. So, Kris, Hannah, if you could speak maybe one sentence about, encouragement for, how folks get started with this, or Hannah, encouragement for students on why it's worth diving in, what would your one piece of advice be?
Kris, you go first.
I think every community should at least explore it.
Nice.
I would say kind of along the same vein, like, why not try something a little different?
All right, Hannah, Kris, thank you both so much for joining us in this webinar and explaining CEO. Folks, feel free to reach out to me, Kris, or Hannah, follow up for any questions with that. But otherwise, we'll be around and hope to see you next time. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Hannah.